Yes.
Okay, good morning. The meeting is now streaming, so welcome to our council meeting for the 23rd of April. We have an apology for lateness from Mose. Can I have a seconder for that, please? Thank you, Councillor Ford. We're going straight into a public forum where we have Marco and Eleanor. Do we have those people online, Lindley?
Yeah, kia ora. Kia ora,
Yep.
everybody.
G'day.
Morning.
Morning.
Kia ora.
Morena.
I'm Marco.
If we could just get up the PowerPoint. I'm not sure who's doing that.
Yes, I'll just bring up the presentation. Just bear with me, please.
Yeah, it's different to the one I sent the councillors yesterday.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, sorry guys. Yeah, it was on a different topic. Yeah,
Absolutely.
same presenter, but different topic. Okay, the floor is yours, Marco.
Thank you. Kia ora, everybody. I'm Marco from Generation Zero, and I also have Eleanor here who will pick up halfway through. So who are we? Generation Zero, we're a non-partisan youth-led climate organization, and we champion solutions towards zero carbon Aotearoa. We have lots of national campaigns, but we, as you see today, also work in major centers around the country. Next slide, please. So what does Porirua look like post-COVID-19, taking into account the climate crisis? So while of course we must be focused on this immediate situation, it's really, really dire, and recovery, but we also can't forget that climate change is just around the corner and it won't go away. So we're urging that it's not just a time to rebuild, but also a time to renew and refocus how we live, to create a new normal. So what does that new normal look like? That's a zero carbon Porirua that is resilient, connected, and livable for current and future generations to enjoy. Next slide.
Sorry, Marco, we're having problems with putting the slides up. We might have to actually send them to councillors after the meeting. Yeah.
Okay, I'll just keep talking to them anyway. So we actually sent a letter to all the councillors a few days before the central government deadline for the shovel-ready infrastructure projects. We were generally pleased with the regional list of projects submitted that came out of that. But in that letter, we also outlined some decision criteria that we thought were pretty pertinent going forward with this recovery, and I think they're worth repeating. Alignment with central and local government declarations. So that's the Zero Carbon Act at a national level and your own declaration of a climate emergency. Prioritizing low emission transport and supporting sustainable urban form. And upholding te tiriti and listening to community voices along the way. And most importantly, providing a green transition out of this recovery. I'll pass on to Eleanor now for the last half of this.
Kia ora, everyone. We really wanted to take this opportunity to draw the council's attention to NZTA's new Innovating Streets Fund, which I'm sure you guys are already aware of. This fund is being made available to provide for temporary trials to enhance streets and cities. And it was initially 7 million, but it's now risen, well, they're suggesting that it'll be about 100 million. And NZTA is proposing to pay 90% of the costs to start trials that can be implemented until 2021. But there are also urgent applications available for COVID distancing. So these trials would be in order to do some innovative work on the streets in Porirua. So NZTA is looking for trials that have a plan to go permanent. They're not looking for low cost projects because they think that councils should just be going ahead and doing those anyway. And what we've seen from the lockdown with COVID is that it's been really terrible for this country. The lockdown and economic downturn has been very hard on a lot of people, but it's shown us a glimpse into what the future could look like with our new normal. I live in Wellington and we've seen native birds return, cleaner air, quieter streets, there's more space for walking and freedom for children to play on the streets. It's just a lot safer. So with that in mind, we've got some thoughts on opportunities for Porirua City. Something that we think would be really cool to see is pop-up bike lanes. That would be really cool along Te Tahi Bay Road and then along the waterfront, Paramoana Street and down Littleton Ave to connect to the station. It would be awesome if people could ride their bikes to the station instead of having to use a park and ride. We would like to see the CBD being connected more to Te Raupraha Park, the waterfront and Takapuahia. And the opportunities for that is centre city footpath widening, creating laneways and pocket parks and planting, and prioritising pedestrians in that space. Something we'd really like to see is making it easier to cross Te Tahi Bay Road, maybe with a footbridge to connect those parts of the city. The other opportunities are around creating safer school zones. You could use this fund to set up ways of closing roads at peak times of travel, lowering speed limits so that it's safer for children to walk or ride their bikes to school. There is opportunities for traffic calming initiatives, including like raised tables, street narrowing, speed bumps. And this could be expanded into the suburbs to make them more walkable and pleasant. And it's really important to note that signposting speeds is not sufficient. There needs to be visual cues to make drivers slow down. And it would be also really cool to see how these funds could be used to repair the severance that's been caused by State Highway 1 through Porirua. When Transmission Gully opens, that highway is going to be far less used, and maintaining that road is going to be really expensive for Porirua City. So there are opportunities to cut back on that road. And it's probably going a bit beyond the Innovating Streets, but it would be cool to see like maybe the slip lanes being dismantled to connect the eastern Porirua suburbs more easily. Marco, do you have anything else to add?
No, I think that's all of us. Thanks for giving us this chance to speak to these proposals, and I'm sure you have the opportunity to look at this PowerPoint as well after the presentation. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Does anyone actually have any questions down the side? Has anyone ticked there? No. Okay, raise your hand because I can't see. Izzy does. Izzy has a question? No? Yeah, I know it's down there, but I can't see anything, Izzy. Sorry.
Yeah, I do. Sorry.
Thank you.
Telephone. Hey, I just had a question around you mentioned about the revocation. I think that was what you were going down that lane. The fund itself, though, allows for projects that are to be completed by 2021. I'm not sure we'll have the revocation of that road done by then. So can you just...
Oh, no, that was more just a general idea of a cool way that Porirua could be moving forward in the recovery with COVID. It probably extends a bit beyond the ability to use the Innovating Streets Fund, but it would be part of a larger picture to reconnect the city.
Okay, all right, thank you for that.
Okay, I've got Ewan.
I think you're on mute.
Yeah, Ewan's on mute. Ewan, Blunley, are you unmuting?
Hi, you hear me now?
Yeah.
I was just wondering, over this period of time, there's been a huge increase in the traffic on the Pawatanui Inlet around the Te Arapico walkway. That's really close to being consented to finalise it. Was that a sort of project that would fall into this category?
Could you explain a bit more what that project is?
Well, it's a walkway completely around the Pawatanui Inlet, and the final bit is from towards the Camborne walkway, so that you'll be able to walk from Grays Road, from the beginning of Grays Road to the end of Grays Road and carry on to Parramatta.
So the thing with the Innovating Streets Fund is that it's a fund to start trials for how you want it to look in the future. So if it's something that can be implemented quickly with a trial and then made more permanent, then yes, you could probably be applying for that funding. But if it requires a large amount of work to create that walkway, then unlikely, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I understand. Thank you.
Okay, I've got a comment from Wendy, please. Lindley, do you unmute them? Wendy?
Yes, it's along the same lines. It is for temporary trials rather than for permanent works. So I'm not sure, unless if there's an extension of the budget, that criteria is changed. I don't think things like that are considered permanent would be eligible.
So what we've been hearing from NZTA is that they're looking for projects for the trials that have a long-term plan for permanence. So the funding is for the trial stage, but they want projects that are planning to become permanent if the trial is successful.
Okay, thank you. There's no other question. Oh, no. Oh, Izzy's got another question. Have you? No, yes. Izzy. Linley's got to mute. Yeah. Linley's got to mute you.
Okay, cool. Sorry. The other question I had, it just popped up in my head when I was reading through the presentation we did get sent, was around the work that Kāinga Ora is doing in Eastern Porirua with the regeneration. Is there an opportunity for you to work alongside them in terms of trying to get some sort of a new urban development type space with our communities? And I know that if there are residents that have good ideas, that you're not taking it from them, you're taking it from the councils. But I don't know, is there an opportunity for us to work alongside or to apply to this fund to try and get funding to work with Kāinga Ora?
As far as I'm aware, in order to access this fund, you have to be an approved organisation, and councils are, Kāinga Ora is not. So if they want to access that fund, they have to partner with councils, and they've already been asking about how they can make that happen. And I know that they're investing a huge amount of money in the Eastern Porirua area, and they've got big master planning going on there at the moment. So I think now's the time if you do want to get involved and work with them on that.
Okay, cool.
I think the person at Kāinga Ora is Alex Baker, I believe. It's probably the person you want to talk to.
Okay, thank you, Eleanor and Marco. We've got no other questions from what I can see. Oh, Ngāti Toa, sorry, I beg your pardon. Taku. Lindy will unmute you. Linley?
Yeah, just one question. Can the iwi apply?
I'm not sure. I think probably not. I think it's being directed mostly at councils, but there's definitely an opportunity for them to partner with the iwi.
Sure. And the other thing is are each regional councils allocated a set amount, or is the world their oyster?
It's kind of a bit up in the air at the moment. They initially opened the fund with 7 million, which is not very much and would not go very far. But
that's not much.
Gillian Gent has been making claims in the media that it's going to be increased to 100 million. So no take backs now.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you both very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Anita.
Thanks for your time.
Thanks.
You guys.
Right, we'll move to, I've got no conflicts of interest declarations. I have had no notifications of extraordinary business. So confirmation of minutes. I will move those. So I have a seconder, please. Thank you, Councillor Duncan. Any issues on any of those? No. Okay, all those in, who went to speak? All those in favour?
Aye.
All those against? Carried. We move to our first report, 11.1, the Local Government Funding Agency. I'll move it to put it on the table, seconded by Councillor Waddle. Officer, comment on this, thank you. Which officer is speaking to it? Roy?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Chair. Look, this is very much a procedural paper following the annual meeting of the LGFA group last November. They've made a number of changes to their documents, and of course we're a part of it. This is impacting on all 70 councils that use their services throughout New Zealand. And the guts of it is actually in paragraph 3 where the changes are being made. The first two relate to uses through CCOs, which don't really apply to us. The impact on 3C, though, does impact us, which is what they're proposing to do, is to increase the requirement for borrowers' notes. Currently, that's at 1.6%. They're moving it to 2.5%. So effectively what that means is that when we borrow money from LGFA, and we need to acquire or purchase some borrower notes at the level of 1.6%, the old regime of what the amount we were borrowing, that'll now go to 2.5. So that's effectively money that sits, our money that sits in the LGFA, and they pay interest on that, but that's just part of their process. So what they're trying to do is, like the banks have been required to increase their capital to give them more stability and everything, this is the equivalent within the LGFA effectively. So that's the guts of what the recommendations are all about. Happy to take questions.
Thank you. Questions? Let's have a look down the side. I can't see anybody's got themselves raised. No questions. Okay, all those in favour? Enough hands. All those against? Carried. Thank you. So we'll now move to the report of the Mayor, which is very, very quick. I just want to thank the staff and the councillors for all the work that everybody is doing. The council are really busy, obviously, in the emergency management area, dealing with an awful number of welfare cases, and appreciate all the councillors sharing all the information and speaking to a number of our people in the community. So that's really good. Thank you. And thank everybody of Paurua for actually sticking to the rules. So I'll just make that really brief. But now, Taku, have you got a report from you from the Kamota? Lindy, could you unmute Taku, please?
Just to say that within our community, the iwi has done quite a bit in terms of taking care of our membership throughout the country, and particularly locally, with packs going out and all sorts going out, particularly to the elderly. And thank goodness, you know, we've got monitors out there that are sending back reports every second day on our community. So we're happy about that. What I am thinking about, though, is the vulnerable within our own community, and it's good to hear that council and others have been proactively endeavouring to ensure that they're comfortable. So thanks, council members.
Okay.
Our CEO has officially resigned, Matt Ray, and it's quite difficult having a celebratory occasion for him while we're in a complete shutdown. So maybe we might look at some time in the future, and I'll make sure that members of council are invited along to that. He's put 30 years into the iwi, and has brought us out of obscurity into quite a great position. I don't know if any of you are aware that we've appointed a new CEO, Helmut Modlik. That's a great Ngāti Toa name. Helmut Modlik from Ngāti Austria. His mother's from Ngāti Toa. She's deeply entrenched in Ngāti Toa. He's quite a bright guy. Has been working in both the private and government sector for a long time. He has quite a wide sort of range of skill sets that he brings to the table. And I think when the time is right, we can have some formal introductions to both council and particularly to Wendy. Thank you, Anita.
Thank you. We look forward to that, and we look forward to thanking Matthew Ray for leaving too. He's done a wonderful job. So we're now going to go into non-public. So I'll need a mover for that. Oh, Whāwhoi, have you got a question? Is it a question or are you moving? It's a question. Can we unmute Whāwhoi, please, Lindley?
Hey, thank you. Hey, actually, my question just regarding the assistance that we've been giving to our community. Do we have records of people who have repeated use of our service? And if they're not allowed, are our community allowed to, are they allowed to come back to the 100 number more than once?
Wendy, I think, is probably the best person to answer that. Thank you.
We do keep records of everybody who, whether they come once, twice or 3 times. We have had some repeats. The issue is not so much whether somebody helps them, it's whether we help them twice. So we're not we're not a welfare agency. So they can certainly come back, and we have had instances, just because it's an emergency, where we have given out more than one food parcel to people. It's not a huge number, it's kind of 10-ish, I think. So it's not a big number, but we are trying to make sure that if people are coming back on repeated occasions, that they are basically referred to an agency who can help them in an ongoing way, because they've obviously got more than a short-term problem.
Great. Actually, that was going to be my next follow-up question regarding that. That's awesome. Just to see whether we were actually assisting them, further on, so awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to move to go into non-public, and that will be seconded by Councillor Trillin. Thank you. So thanks to the public for joining us, and we'll just wait while Lindley moves us into non-public.